Senator Hunt, you're recognized to speak.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues. I rise in support of this motion to override the veto proudly. I've introduced bills to address the bed bug crisis in public housing in Omaha. Almost every year that I've been here, I introduced one this year that Senator DeBoer talked about earlier that's part of her priority. And what I've learned in 7 years of bed bug work is that this is not an issue that has anything to do with income or class or where you live. People who live in these public housing towers in Omaha, which I have a couple in my district as well, they face a bigger problem because those places are run by an authority that are not doing anything about the infestation. Bed bugs can happen to anybody, can happen to any of you, can happen in any part of the state, but we have a unique infestation issue in Omaha, in the public housing towers, that we've been trying to address for years, and LB287 is the only bill that's made it across the finish line. When you compare what bill was introduced with how LB287 is today, the amendment that was attached to the bill to change it to be better for the city. You know, I bet that if I got up any of the opponents on the mic right now and I said, what's the cost of LB287? Did LB287 have opponents? How is it paid for? I bet none of you would know the answer. I would actually bet, $100 on that, because I don't think you're listening. I think you have your mind made up. The public housing towers in my district that are affected by bed bugs heavily, one of them is just cat-a-corner from 49th and Underwood, which is where I lived for about 10 years until 2021 in an apartment there. And even today, if you drive by there, you see people picketing outside, holding up big signs, big banners, asking the city of Omaha to do something about the bed bug problem. There are active people picketing actively in front of these housing towers. And LB287, as to borrow a phrase made famous by Senator Conrad, is a modest but meaningful advancement in protections for those people. But I don't even think that it's really worth talking about the human rights aspect of LB287. Nobody deserves to live with bed bugs. You wouldn't wish this on your worst enemy. All this type of argument. If this type of argument moved you, colleagues, we wouldn't be here right now. For me to talk about rights, quality of life, human dignity, none of that reaches you. It's never reached you. So there's nothing for me to say about that type of topic. But opponents, frankly, I don't believe you. I don't believe your reasoning. I don't think you're being honest when you stand up and talk about your opposition. There's a couple people who stood up who said, I was always opposed to this, I was always opposed to the SID portion of it from Senator Sanders, and I respect that. I respect that consistency. But for those of you who have changed your votes on the vote card, I simply don't believe you, and I don't think you're being honest. Senators like Senator Hallstrom, Senator Bozen, who say that they were always against the SID portion of this bill, well, why not divide the question then? Why didn't you fight that portion of the bill and try to get that out of the bill? And this is very cynical for me to say and believe, but this place has turned me into a deeply cynical person. It makes me wonder if folks are putting poison pills in bills introduced by progressives because they know it'll sink the whole thing. Is that what Senator Sanders intended to do? Well, where is she? She's not on the floor right now. The item of contention in this bill is ostensibly her portion of the bill, and it would be collegial of her to come in here and put on her light, as we've been talking about this for the last 2 hours, and defend her bill. She doesn't have to say anything about human rights or bed bugs. Senator Sanders, come in here and put on your light and defend your bill in this package, or say, I don't even care anymore, I support the veto. I'm not even going to stand behind the work I did. Which is it? I think the collegial and statesmanlike thing to do would be to stand up for the work that you have done or explain why you no longer do.
That's your time,
Thank
Senator.
you, Mr. President.